Hey guys, welcome to the channel Dit Commando. Hopefully you already know now, I'm a former Royal Marines Commando from the United Kingdom. My name's Ryan, and today we're going to be reacting to the anatomy of a headshot. It's something that, believe it or not, a lot of people are quite interested in. You know, when I was in the Marines, we often wondered what would happen if you took a bullet to the head. Obviously it's lights out. If you hit them in this bit here, it just turns the switches off, guys. But why? Why does that happen? We'll find out in this video. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. A way to do it as well, if you're not logged into YouTube, guys, just create an account and then sign up and then literally log into a YouTube account, then subscribe, because quite a lot of people aren't logged into their account to be able to subscribe. You really do help us out by doing that, guys, okay? But anyway, let's just get straight into this one.
You already know what happens when someone is shot in the head.
Get what you fucking deserve!
They die.
Nice.
On the surface, yes, a headshot is a fatal wound, but beneath the gory reality, there's a lot that goes on when a bullet enters someone's skull. First things first, in terms of firearms, we're talking strictly pistols and rifles, not shotguns, because a shotgun to the head is pretty self-explanatory. Let's start at the firearm, shall we? When a bullet is fired from a pistol or rifle, the bullet travels through a rifled barrel. A rifled barrel has grooves in it that cause the bullet to spin. When this spinning bullet penetrates the skull, its rotating motion flings cranial tissue outward. Tissue then expands to about 12.5 times the diameter of the bullet, but is only this stretched for about 5 to 10 milliseconds and then shrinks back down to normal size. For instance, a .22 caliber bullet produces a wound of 2.7 inches.
Wow.
A .38 caliber bullet creates a 4.4 inch wide wound, and a .45 caliber bullet creates a 5-inch wide wound. Though it's...
Yeah, you don't really want to get shot with either of those in the head, guys, to be honest with you.
very short, the expanded cavity does a remarkable amount of damage to the skull. This wound creates a vacuum effect, causing air to rush into it, making the cranial cavity expand, causing secondary fracture lines that spread out from the wound.
See, this is the thing as well. You do hear stories of individuals, especially those casualties at war, actually surviving headshots and seeing them people live with half their skulls intact. It's quite an amazing thing, the head.
Fractures occur at soft locations, like the temples and orbital plates behind the eyes. The higher power the firearm, the more secondary fracturing of the skull, especially at more thick and hard locations like the front and back. Speaking of high-powered, what factor do you think contributes to making a bullet more damaging to the human body? Its length, its velocity, or its weight? The answer
velocity. I'm going to go with velocity.
Is velocity. To understand why, let's look at this equation for kinetic energy. In this case, the kinetic energy of a bullet is equal to the weight of the bullet times its velocity squared divided by the gravitational acceleration constant times 2. This may seem like a lot, especially if you haven't taken physics, but...
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, guys. Physics wasn't my strong point, so it's over my head.
Allow me to make this insultingly simple. More kinetic energy equals more ouch. The higher the kinetic energy of a bullet, the more damage
Yeah, I like it. That's my type of lesson, guys. Job done. We can go home now.
it does. And we can prove mathematically how velocity does this. So let's make everything a value of 10. Okay, so the weight is 10, the velocity is 10, and the gravitational constant is also 10. We run the equation and the kinetic energy is 50. Okay, great. When we double the weight of the bullet, the kinetic energy also doubles to 100. Now, if we double the velocity, the kinetic energy does not double, it quadruples. When there's more kinetic energy, there's just overall more damage. We're talking a stronger pressure wave through the skull, more external gases going into the head, more secondary fracturing, and even splitting of the skull itself. This is why rifles are more lethal than pistols, not because of the weight, but because of the velocity of the round. Now, let's look at what happens inside the skull. When the bullet punctures the skull, it creates an entrance wound, about the size of the bullet. If it exits the skull, it creates an exit wound many times larger than the bullet itself. This happens in nearly all mediums a bullet passes through, whether it be plastic, metal, wood, or bone. This is because as the bullet passes through the medium, it creates a shockwave in front of it which widens. Additionally, the bullet may rupture or mushroom, increasing its surface area. As for the interior of the skull, the bullet causes the bone to bevel. The best way I can illustrate this process of beveling is with a piece of Swiss cheese. This side of the cheese is where the bullet enters, and is very clean and small.
It's actually made me want some Swiss cheese as well, and we've got a lot of people from Switzerland watch the channel, so big up to the Swiss.
This side is where the bullet exits and is very wide and flared out. This flaring chips pieces of the skull and launches them into the brain, causing more damage. Once in the brain, 3 things can happen to the bullet. 1, it can slow and stop. If it loses enough of its energy when it pierces the skull, it will stop in its path inside the brain, probably at the other end of the skull. 2, it passes cleanly through, or 3, it ricochets inside the head. Of the 3, the least common is the third, accounting for about 20% of all bullet paths. If the round was fired from a high-powered rifle, it will most likely pass through. If it's fired from a pistol, it will likely stop in the brain or ricochet. Also,
the thing is with velocity as well, guys, you know, you hear of like 50 cal, the velocity behind the 50 cal machine gun is, or a sniper rifle, is unbelievable. These things don't even have to hit you. They just have to pass close by, you know, and it can rip part of the body clean off. It can, you know, smash the head in just literally from passing the body. It's the velocity is that much from these things. It's crazy.
So, interesting fact, most skull ricochets aren't like this, where the bullet bounces off at an angle. Though it does happen, but not frequently. In the majority of ricochets, the bullet follows the round groove of the skull. The skull is actually very strong, and the bullet, having lost so much energy passing through, simply glides along the groove, sometimes sitting just beneath the scalp. Finally, what happens to the brain in this whole ordeal? Well, it's bad. The brain is a solid, inelastic, and incredibly soft organ. Unfortunately, these properties do nothing to reduce the damage the brain receives from a gunshot. In contrast, elastic organs such as your intestines, stomach, and bladder receive less damage from gunshots. The energy from the pressure wave is dissipated because the tissue stretches. However, solid inelastic organs like your liver, pancreas, kidneys, heart, and brain receive full damage from the pressure wave because the tissue does not stretch. Finally,
either way, guys, you're getting shot anywhere in the body, it's going to be a bad day. Going to be a bad day indeed. And it's just can't even bear to think about it, really, especially when you think about all the people who've been to war, who've been in situations where they have been shot and they've had to fight through that situation, you know, fight through that adversity, no matter what injuries they've sustained. If they're capable of fighting on, you hear these stories of harrowing detail, and just, it's, I don't know, makes you wonder. Kind of makes me think a lot about my military service as well. You know, I've been in the military and stuff, but it makes me think about some of the situations I could have been in. Now that I've got a little daughter and stuff, I'm just grateful that, I've never been shot in the head, put it that way.
the distance the bullet travels from the barrel to the head can also determine how damaged the brain is. If the shot is far enough away, the bullet may actually bounce off the head. It'll still cause a wound, similar to getting hit in the head with a baseball bat or a hammer, but again, it won't actually penetrate the skull, but will still do severe damage. Of course, these shots are well over 100 yards away and are from low-powered firearms like a pistol or a .22. Contact shots, on the other hand, where the muzzle of the firearm is placed on the victim's head and then fired, turns the brain into a literal pulp. This happens for two reasons. Firstly, the bullet has the highest velocity when it strikes the skull, delivering the most energy possible. Remember this equation? Secondly, the hot expansive gases that are behind the bullet follow it into the wound. These gases then expand in the victim's brain, pulpifying it, as well as causing the skull in some cases to split open. With all this being said, believe it or not, headshots are not 100% fatal. On average,
yeah, we did talk about that, guys, didn't we? The fact that these things are not 100% fatal. You'd think they are, but, you know, people do survive them.
They're 90% fatal given the right circumstances. In my next video, I'll discuss how and why some people have managed to survive a headshot and still live to tell the story.
Cool. Right then, guys, I think we'll, I wouldn't mind watching that video, actually. I think that would be quite good. We understand a little bit more about the anatomy of a headshot, how it works and stuff, how it's quite a high fatality rate, but it's not 100%. And the next video, what he's going to do is going to showcase people who've actually survived headshots as well to tell the tale. And I have heard stories of this before, so I might actually do that, guys. If you do want to see that type of video, please like, share and subscribe. Drop a comment below. If you haven't yet joined our Discord, the link is in the description, guys.